Have you ever noticed how some ads make you tear up while others you forget right away? That's because stories reach deeper than information. They connect with emotions. Hi everyone, my name is Ali Calvert, and today I'm going to talk about the psychology of storytelling and business. Specifically, how stories shape trust, emotions, and consumer decisions. In the next few minutes, we'll explore three key ideas: how storytelling engages both heart and the brain, how it builds trust and authenticity, and how it ultimately drives consumers' loyalty and actions. When we hear a story, we don't just process information, we experience it. That's why when you watch a powerful commercial, just like Nike's Just Do It, you feel something before you even think about buying shoes. It's emotion first, logic second. Neuroscientist Paul Zak found that inspiring stories release oxytocin, often called the trust hormone. This chemical makes us more empathetic and more likely to believe and connect with the person or brand telling the story. So when businesses use storytelling, they aren't just selling, they're biologically connecting. Building trust through emotions. Now let's talk about trust because trust is the currency of business. We're living in an era where people don't buy products, they buy stories behind those products. Great example is Apple itself. Apple doesn't talk about specs or prices first, they talk about creativity, empowerment, and thinking differently. The emotional story makes customers feel like they're part of something bigger, and it builds trust. Hamby, Brinberg, and Danilowski explains that founder stories like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk create a sense of authenticity. When a brand is humanized through storytelling, people see it as more genuine and more likely to stay loyal. Memory retentions of feelings. There's something powerful. People forget numbers and slogans, but they remember feelings. Lundquist and colleagues found that stories leave emotional imprints that help us recall information much more easily. Think about it. The last touching commercial you saw, it probably wasn't the product that struck with you, it was the feeling. When business connect emotionally, they create memories that last longer than any sale or promotion. That's why emotional storytelling is one of the most effective long-term marketing tools a brand can use. Brand authenticity and humanization. Storytelling also makes brands human. When companies share real customer journey and challenges, they become really relatable rather than corporate. For example, small business that share their struggles and values on social media often gain trust faster than big companies with massive ad budgets. It's because stories makes us root for people, not the product. He and Duening highlight that entrepreneurial storytelling helps audiences see opportunities, not just advertisements. In short, song story can turn a company into a cause, influencing consumer behavior. So what happens when storytelling meets business strategy? Changes behavior. Bullock, Shellman, and Husky found that narratives reduce resistance, making people less likely to argue with or ignore a story than with pure data. That's why most modern brands now tell stories, transformation of just showing before and after pictures. Stories help customers imagine themselves as the hero, the person who takes action and feels good about it. When that happens, business don't just sell, they inspire. Finally, let's take a look at loyalty. We've all seen brands fade away because they stop connecting emotionally. But those that stay consistent in their storytelling, like Coca-Cola or Airbnb, builds emotional bonds that turns buyers into lifelong advocates. When customers feel a part of the story, they don't just consume, they belong. And the sense of belonging keeps them coming back even when competitors offer cheaper options. So, in conclusion, what do we learn? Stories activate both emotional and logic. They release chemicals that build trust, and they make brands memorable, human, and persuasive. In a world full of ads, data, noises, stories are what actually cut through. They don't talk, they just inform. They don't just inform, they inspire actions. As Zach said, stories are the best way to communicate values and inspire cooperation. That's why storytelling isn't just communication tool, it's the heartbeat of every successful business. Thank you.